How's it going, guys? We are back here for another episode of the NFL Cymru podcast. And honestly, Gito, day one, the regular season is getting so close to us now. I think it's like T minus 3 weeks and counting. We're about to have the last rounds, the last weekend of preseason three games. Some teams have already played their last preseason game, so it's now we're going to have a 2 week break, a 2 week window between between the end of the preseason and the beginning of the regular season, first week or first weekend of September. So obviously, in the last preseason game, it's going to be quite interesting to see how many starters are going to be playing, because the last thing that you want is for especially one of your stars is to get injured so close to, after going through the summer training camp, all of this preseason games, and now we're so we can sniff it in the air, per se. And yeah, obviously, as you can probably tell, we're getting hyped here on the podcast because it's so close now. And yeah, Gito, first of all, not like that. Great to be back once again. Fantastic timing. This is probably one of the first times that we've managed to record a pod, and an announcement has literally fallen kindly for us. So I'm going to let you do the honours.
Nos with that, David. Luck is on our side this week. Yeah, so the big breaking news that we've got for our viewers this week is our boy, our Welshman that we like to praise, Tyson Bagent.
Oh yeah.
Has signed a new deal with the Chicago Bears. I believe it's a 2-year deal, not a massive deal, but it's from what we've seen from Tyson in the preseason so far, I think it's pretty well deserved new deal for him. 10 million, 13 mil protected. It could extend to 13, 14. So an extra 2-year deal for Tyson Bagent. So his future for now the next couple of years is safe with the Bears. And just like as I mentioned, he's been pretty good. We've been hyping him up during the preseason so far. We're hoping we'll see him play in the regular season. I doubt we'll see him play as much plays as Caleb Williams, but a well-deserved new deal for our boy Tyson Bagent.
Oh, absolutely thrilled for him. And I love that he's kind of like taking Rees-Zammit's mantle as our Welsh boy, our hero in the NFL. Because honestly, I think I mentioned on the last pod when the Dolphins played the Bears in week one of preseason. I as a Dolphins fan was really impressed by what he did. Obviously, he's played some regular games and has been quite successful actually as a starting QB. Okay, maybe he didn't win many games, but I remember he performed really well. And from what I've seen over the last 2 weeks in preseason, he's come in there and he's really shown what he can do. Especially accurate throwing. From what I saw, he's got quite a cannon of an arm as well. I remember back to last week when the Bears scored a touchdown at the back of the end zone, and he managed to squeeze a window when a rusher was literally in his face. So really impressive stuff. And like you said, Gito, not the biggest contract, but I think the deal could extend up to 16 mil for 2 years. So it's great to see him rewarded. Like I said, you never know what's going to happen with Caleb Williams. I know that the Bears have invested highly in their O-line over free agency, but I guess you never know. And it's strange. That's another team now we're gonna have to watch out for, I guess, especially if something does happen to Caleb. Obviously not. We're hoping that it doesn't, but it would it'd be kind of cool to see him in a regular season game as well. So definitely keep an eye out for Tyson as well. So that was probably the main big extensions that's happened over the last week after a flurry that came last week. I'm pretty sure that's the only one to note. The only other impending, I guess, not extension or deal, but I guess we might be waiting for a trade to happen. And let's be honest, it's going to be a big one when it does go down, if it goes down, because obviously things have kind of been bubbling under the surface between the Cincinnati Bengals and Trey Hendrickson. He was the sack leader last season, 2024-2025. He's an absolute baller, defensive end. Obviously looking for a new contract, probably looking for more guaranteed money. The Bengals clearly aren't playing ball, haven't been playing ball all summer, and now it's been released out there that they are actively looking for a trade. And I'm sure, obviously, the compensation is probably going to be, I reckon, Gito, at least the first round pick. Would you think maybe more a first and maybe a player swap perhaps for Trey Hendrickson? Because, like I said, we're talking about definitely a top 5, if not top 3 pass rusher in the league here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the guy is a beast in his own. It'll take a first rounder, maybe a second rounder for him, maybe plus a player as well. It'll be a massive loss for the Cincinnati Bengals if they decide to move him on, or if he decides to move to another team. I was just reading a couple of reports here, though, Ed.
Yeah.
Interesting one, a name of a team that's popped up a couple of times. It's probably a team nobody expected until I've just read it now. The Las Vegas Raiders are considered the top landing spot for the Bengal star. The silence is deafening in here, David.
I know. Oh, well, it depends what he wants to do, because I think he's entering his late 20s, I believe. Trey Hendrickson.
He's 30 years old at this moment.
There we are then. Okay. Would I advocate for anyone to go to the Las Vegas Raiders at the moment? Not this season, maybe. Listen, I completely understand what you say. Obviously, they probably have the cap space and the salary to make him probably the top. Let's be honest, he's going to be, if not the top 3 highly paid pass rusher in the league. So I understand from that point of view. But in terms of if he wants to compete for titles, you don't go to the Las Vegas Raiders. And that's no disrespect. Coming from a Dolphins fan, I'm very, very aware of our past and our current misfortunes. But I don't know if I'm Trey Hendrickson, I personally wouldn't want to go there. But the only thing that I'll say about this deal, Gitta, is obviously, like you said, it's going to be a massive loss for the Bengals if he does leave. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't feel bad for them as an organization. They've decided that they're going to spend the money on Chase and Higgins.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, they've negated the defense for the last couple of years. Since they went to the Super Bowl, that was, 3 or 4 years ago, they haven't had a decent defense at all. Clearly, that hasn't been on the agenda in terms of maybe the draft. I know they've just drafted Shamar Stewart as another defensive end, maybe to replace Hendrickson. I don't know. But I feel like almost kind of like saying to the Bengals, have a taste of your own medicine, and kind of, I won't feel sorry to see him go, because I'd like to see him go somewhere where he's appreciated. I know. You said something to me before. Can you tell the listeners what one Johan Furnham decided to send you a message to say a potential landing spot for Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah, so for the viewers who don't follow us on Instagram, I posted a story with a question: where would we see Troy Hendrickson? My apologies. If he does move, where would it end up? And our good friend Johan, he's been with us in a couple of episodes here. He sent me a couple of Eagles emojis. Okay. Obviously, we know who Johan is a big fan of. He's made that very clear. So, I guessed very easily what he meant with those emojis. So, It's the kind
Surely.
of, I think we spoke briefly before the podcast. It's the kind of move that we see happening. A big player going to a big team. It probably makes more sense for him to go to a bigger team than to rebuilding a smaller Las Vegas Raiders team who, pretty much starting absolutely fresh. New quarterback, new coaching staff. Tom Brady as the owner, but they're not. They're still a few seasons ahead to be challenging for the playoffs, I think. So, probably not the right time to go to the Raiders.
No.
So, but I think our friend Johan, he's a wishful thinker. I think
He is. Well, I think that's the right term for it. However, firstly, I obviously I genuinely don't know if the Eagles have the cap space in order to make that happen. Secondly, that wouldn't be fair on the whole of the NFL if Trey Hendrickson would join the Eagles. That would be just be, lock it down. The NFC is Philadelphia's to lose, and I'm still waiting for him to reply because I'm sure he knows by now that in our rankings that I put the Commanders to win the NFC East. But there we are. I'm still waiting for him to send some crap my way, but there we are. Do you know what? Just before we move on from Trey Hendrickson quickly, Guitar, another, maybe up there with the Eagles as a pretty unrealistic team or landing spot for him. Do you know what? Who's actively looking for a defensive end is the Kansas City Chiefs, because they've just lost one of their edges, Felix Uzoma. He's gone down for the year, so he's going on IR for the year. Again, I doubt that they'll have the cap space because I'm pretty sure they've just extended Karlaftis over the summer. I doubt that they've got any cap space to pay another star defensive end. But if you put him on the Kansas City Chiefs roster as well, again, you'd probably, say that's completely unfair because, the I'd love to see what Spagnuolo can do with Trey Hendrickson. But yeah, we'll wait and see. It's going to be very interesting to see A, who's going to be able to afford him, B, who's going to give the Bengals that draft capital, and when's it going to go down? Is it going to go down before the beginning of the season? Is he going to hold out? Is he going to miss some games? Is it going to happen at the end of the deadline window for trades? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Great. We'll park that for a while. Shall we move on to talk about the last round of the preseason games that happened on the weekend? Week 2 of preseason. The Falcons played the Titans, Guitar, and I noticed that none of the starters played, including Michael Penix Jr. So I'm guessing that maybe he's not going to play throughout the preseason at all, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, the Falcons seems to be very protective of all their star players. Rightly so. I'm happy with that as long as we have a fresh team going into regular season week 1. Easton Stick was our quarterback yet again. He had a very good game. We did lose the game, as my screen has crashed in here, but here we go. Titans won 23-20 at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's not nice to lose at home. I've been there, and it was not nice to lose at home. But pre-season is all about getting players fit and ready. Easton Stick, he had a pretty decent game. 19 completions out of the 32, scored a touchdown, 173 yards. So I'm quite happy with that performance. But there was a lot of focus on that game. I watched the beginning of that game. It was very late in here, and a lot of focus was on the new quarterback, Cam Ward. I think it was his first game as well. I don't believe he played week 1. So a lot of focus was on him. Brandon Allen had more of the ball in quarterback, so I'll just go through his stats quickly. 11 out of 14 completions. He did score a touchdown and 119 yards. Cam Ward didn't score a touchdown. Only 7 attempts, 2 catches, 42 yards. So with all the noise in him. He was a bit lackluster, but there's room for improvements there, I believe. But I don't remember off the top of my head who the Titans have next week. Well, this weekend. So I will expect. I wouldn't be surprised if Cam Ward does play a little bit of rounds before week 1 begins. So not a lot to report from the Falcons on that game. However, in the last 24, 48 hours, it's not been a good time to be a Falcons fan, David. We've had 2 pretty substantial injuries in the camp. Starting off yesterday, I believe, or 2 days ago, Storm Norton, our offensive tackle. We've got 2 injured offensive tackles, by the way. The first one being Storm Norton, a great player for the Falcons. He will be out after a ankle surgery for 6 to 8 weeks, and I am absolutely gutted. He's a top player for the Falcons. He's a great server. He's a hard worker as well. And another offensive tackle today in training camp today. He was cast off with a leg injury, Caleb McGarry, so he's going for an MRI scan. So this one doesn't look good either, to be honest. So two substantial injuries here for the Falcons in the last 24, 48 hours. Not good at all, David.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything crossed for Caleb McGarry because losing one starting offensive lineman sucks, but losing 2 within 2 days is just that kind of could potentially change a few outcomes. Obviously, it's obviously in the NFL it's next man up mentality, but that only gives you 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to get the backups basically acclimated, push them up to be first teamers. All about they have to all about chemistry and things like that with a first team line. So hopefully that the McGarry injury isn't as bad as it seemed. I'll give you a little bit of hope. Last week when the Dolphins were in joint practices with the Detroit Lions, our star defensive end, or he's an upcoming, he's a rising star in my mind. His name is Chop Robinson. We drafted him last year. He was carted off during these joint practices, and everyone obviously kind of like went into panic stations, but it actually turned out he was fine. He suffered a blow to the ribs, and he was back training the next day. So hopefully that the MRI scan is obviously clear and he'll be able to come back week 1, and obviously everything crossed for that. But I feel your pain, Gito, in terms of injuries. The Dolphins have, I believe we've signed something ridiculous, like 5 or 6 different offensive linemen within the last 3 weeks because of injuries. We've lost at least one starting cornerback with a torn ACL. Another potential starting nickel cornerback went down first day of training camp without even doing any physical work. That's all he was doing. He was doing a drill where the cornerbacks they back up as if the receiver is running towards them, and somehow freak accident he tore an ACL as well. RT Burns. So we've lost two starting cornerbacks, and Tyreek Hill has been sidelined with an abdominal strain. Darren Waller, who obviously didn't play last year, he's been on PUP. He hasn't even practiced at all for the Dolphins. Our star running back, Devon Achane, has got a calf injury. So I'm literally, at the end of every day, when I go to X and I see the breakdown of what's happened on training camp, I'm like this every single day. Because unfortunately, like you're proving at the moment, our teams are clearly, they've got the injury bug at the moment. So hopefully, like I said, no more major injuries. I doubt that any of the starters for either us, the Dolphins or the Falcons, will play on the weekend. And obviously they'll be able to rest for at least 2 weeks and get ready for the regular season. Just to quickly note, in terms of the Dolphins preseason, they went into Ford Field and they beat the Detroit Lions 24-17, which I was able to watch on my way back from Grimsby on the weekend, commentating. Like I said, only the twos and the threes played. I was happy with our running game. Our defense did a pretty good job against the Lions, and it was great to see that we got an interception to close the deal in the fourth quarter. So overall, pretty happy after being dominated in the joint practices in the week, apparently especially by Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know he's an absolute baller as well, but he was killing the Dolphins cornerbacks all week. Okay, Guitar. Anything else to note about the second around the second week of preseason for you? What stood out for you?
I think the biggest shocker of the preseason, obviously we expect any scores here in preseason, but I think one of the biggest, the most shocking one, we were talking about Tyson Bagent before, the Chicago Bears, they were home to the Bills, and they beaten the Bills 38-0.
They annihilated them.
Tyson Bagent had 13 out of 22 attempts, 196 yards and a touchdown. Caleb Williams had a couple of drives as well. Well, a few drives actually. 6 out of 10, 107 yards and a touchdown as well. So both quarterbacks did really well in that game against... It must have been a second team Buffalo there.
Yeah, I don't think any of the starters played for Buffalo. However, Buffalo prides themselves on defense. It's hard to say, Gito, if that's a one-off, if that is actually a blip for the Bills, or maybe their backups actually aren't as good as they made out to be. So, if they do suffer some injuries and they need to depend on their depth, clearly that's not a good sign, especially for the defense, giving up 38 points. That is rough, and I'm sure the Bills will be looking for a reaction. Obviously, as a Dolphins fan, having the Bills in our division, they've won the division 4 times in a row. I'm not going to overreact. Don't get me wrong, it did make me smile to see that final score. I loved it. Another team I thought looked very impressive, or certain individuals. Actually, to be fair, both QBs I thought looked impressive for the New York Giants, Skiptine, and I know that we've been watching. We've noted Jackson Dart because the Giants played the Bills last week, and we've seen a lot of replays of Russell Wilson's 80-yard bomb. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Malik Neighbors. I can't remember who the receiver was. But Jackson Dart is clearly making a name for himself as the backup QB in New York.
Yeah, I believe it's Devin Singletary that he threw the ball to, if I'm correct.
Oh, was it? Okay,
I believe so. Yeah, if you guys follow us on Twitter, me myself, I've been on the Jackson Dart train all week. I think I enjoyed watching his highlights from the weekend. He's a future quarterback for. I think that's the Giants' quarterback of the future right there. He was outstanding to watch. 14 out of 16, 137 yards and a touchdown. That's, for a rookie quarterback, and for a preseason game, obviously, but it's really good stats there. James Winston had over 100 yards as well. So did Russell Wilson, and Tommy DeVito just getting over 50 yards. So all 4 quarterbacks did have a game in that preseason game. Justin Fields, he threw 1 catch out of 5. A lot of people are starting to throw doubt at Justin Fields. I think there was a
me included. Get I think I noted it on the pod last week. Like I said, he's an absolute deadly runner, but as a passer, I'm really not sold on him at all.
Yeah, I've been hyping up all summer, so I'm still holding my hand on that one a little bit. But his stock has gone down. Unfortunately, his fantasy points, nobody will be probably
Yeah.
looking at him. So I'm hoping he will turn around for him the regular season. They're playing the Patriots week 1,
Right.
so obviously Fields against Aaron Rodgers. So that's going to be an interesting one for week 1. So I'm looking forward for
Yeah,
that
yeah,
game.
yeah.
I do
Yeah.
hope that Justin Fields will turn it around just for himself. I think he has what it takes to be a really good quarterback. But I was hoping this new team would be the right place for him. But time will tell on that one, I'm afraid. But overall, my main takeaway from this is Jackson Dart is an unbelievable. It's going to be an unbelievable quarterback. Him
Yeah.
and Malik Neighbours, that's a great partner, wide receiver
Oh,
quarterback partnership right there for the future. That's one to be afraid of.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
just lastly on the Giants as well. Do you know? That's all I see as well on well highlight reels and X as well. Is apparently Abdul Carter has been absolutely balling out in training camp as well. Second pick for second pick in the draft. Yeah, he looks like an absolute monster
Yeah.
from Penn State. Gito, just a few other things I wanted to note about preseason before we move on. Firstly, I'm not sure if you saw some of the highlights from, I believe it was, when was it? When did they play? I think it was on Sunday. It was Sunday night. The Bengals played their last preseason game, and Joe Burrow was in there for a few series, and he got absolutely dominated, abused by the Commanders' defensive front. He was thrown around like a rag doll, which doesn't bode well for the Cincinnati O-line, and it doesn't bode well for for Joe Burrow's health as well, because we've seen what's happened to Joe Burrow. He tore his ACL during his rookie year because their O-line was so bad. Um, I literally, if I was a Bengals fan, just watching that video and just watching how your star QB was being absolutely manhandled, that's all I would have been screaming at the coaching staff to get him out of there, to get him off the field, because it was really hard to watch. Um, and the second thing as well to note as well, Gito, is I'm not sure if this is a shock or not, um, but the Colts have come out, I believe it was yesterday, and they have announced that Daniel Jones is going to be their starting QB. What do you think of that?
Yeah, this one really surprised me. We knew there was going to be a bit of a competition when Daniel Jones signed for the Colts, and yeah, he decided now that he was going to be their QB1. I'm just going to get the depth chart in here quickly, David. So yeah, I've seen a lot. I don't know how to react, to be honest with you. I've seen a lot of reaction on social media, on Twitter. A lot of Colts fans aren't happy about it. They think Anthony Richardson should be still be the quarterback, even though he's tall, he's athletic, he's got. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. But
Yeah.
Daniel Jones being quarterback 1 for the Colts is an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I think. I remember you mentioned. I think it was the last episode or the episode before. We were talking about the Miami. You playing Colts in your first game, Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe you would prefer if you were playing against Daniel Jones rather than.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And
So
I'm not sure if it's anything to do with, a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was in the first weekend of preseason, Anthony Richardson did dislocate his finger
yes,
on
he
his
did.
throwing arm.
Yeah.
So I that might be something to do with why the decision has been made to start with Daniel Jones as well. I think Daniel Jones is definitely the safer option. Uh, Anthony Richardson, although, like you said, he has all the traits to be. Do you know what? His body type reminds me of Cam Newton back in the day.
Yeah.
Such a specimen. 6'5",
Yeah.
absolutely massive.
Old school quarterback, David.
Yeah. The only
Old
problem with
school.
Anthony Richardson is um, well, I guess his lack of consistency as a thrower.
Yeah.
I think I would have feared, as a Dolphins fan, I would have feared Anthony Richardson a lot more than Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And just the last thing, the Colts, Guitar, they have signed, ironically, yesterday they signed a former Miami Dolphins cornerback, star cornerback in Xavier Howard, who's been out of the league 1 year. So he signed a 1 year deal with them. And actually, a lot of the Dolphins media were calling on the Dolphins to sign X, because we have a cornerback crisis over in Miami as well. But clearly, they didn't want to, and he's gone. He's gone to the Colts. So interestingly, he'll be playing against his former team in the regular season, in game one in regular season. That's all I have on the preseason, unless you've got anything else to note, Gito.
No, so talking about QB1s, we were talking about Daniel Jones. The other one I think is worth mentioning, David, the Cleveland Browns have named their QB1.
Yeah.
Legendary quarterback, the second oldest in the league behind Aaron Rodgers,
Right.
Joe Flacco. I
Yeah.
believe I got that correct. I need to get a
Yeah.
double check which one is the oldest. But Joe Flacco will be QB1. And if they've released their order of quarterbacks, and Shadis Sanders will be the fourth quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, David. So Kenny
Yeah.
Pickett will be QB2.
Yeah.
And the other drafted quarterback, Dylan Gabriel,
Oh,
will
Dylan
be the third.
Gabriel.
Yeah, so Shadir
Interesting.
Sanders being number fourth, which is the official list that they've been given.
Well,
Um,
technically, Gito, sorry to. If he's, I mean, obviously, we have to be obviously, whether you think that is truth or a complete fabrication, because obviously a lot of people, um, obviously just kind of like put things that are completely untrue just to try and bamboozle some of the teams.
hmm,
But say now that is true and he is the fourth QB on the depth chart. Technically, Gito, usually most NFL teams carry three QBs on their 52-man roster, and then they'll
hmm,
put either their third or their fourth on the practice squad, which means if Shadir is fourth, he will be released to waivers, and he will be free for anyone else to grab him and to either um, bring him onto their 52-man roster, or they could nab him for their practice squad as well. So he's going to have to clear waivers before coming back to Cleveland. I don't. I'd be very, very surprised if they'd release him onto waivers, because surely he's going to get snapped up. He's going to be snapped up by someone, 100%.
yeah, he had a very good game in week one, didn't he? He didn't play
Yeah,
last weekend, week two. He had a
yeah, he
niggling
was. Yeah, I
injury,
think he was
like an
injured,
upper
wasn't he?
body.
Or well, yeah,
Yeah,
apparent
nothing
injury.
major, but he had a very good showing in that first game. I didn't think of it like that actually, so I'm actually quite interested now to see what they're actually going to do with Shadir Sanders. Is he
Yeah,
the future for the Cleveland Browns? Do we see him play for the Cleveland Browns in the future? It's hard to tell with everything going on. So
yeah.
um, yeah, any team that would be looking for a new brilliant young quarterback after obviously with what happened in the draft and everything, obviously his stocks were down, 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 down. But he's shown that he's still that he can play. So I'm not sure what the stats is for the third week of preseason coming up. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, but an interesting couple of
Yeah,
weeks with the
I
roster
don't know
cuts.
either.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so obviously Cleveland have had a lot of injuries. I think Pickett's been injured, Gabriel's been injured.
Yeah.
They signed another QB, another former QB of the Rams in Snoop Huntley, to be, I guess, another camp arm. And now Shadur has been injured as well. So I don't know if either Pickett or Dylan Gabriel are back practicing now. I'll have to look that up. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see if he does
Yeah.
play. I think it'll say more if he doesn't play. I think if he doesn't play, he's safe on the roster. If he
Yeah.
does play, I don't know. I really don't know. That's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens there. I
Yeah.
really don't know what happens. Because I'm absolutely guaranteed that someone is going to snap him up. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, me
Definitely.
too. I agree with that one. David. I think he does have a bright future as well in the NFL.
Yeah.
So
He's got
I think
something from what I've seen from what I've
yeah,
seen what he's done during training camp. Yeah, there's something there. There's definitely something there. There's a lot of
yeah,
baggage, don't get me wrong, but there's definitely some talent there. He hasn't got the
yeah.
biggest arm, but yeah, there's something there. It's worth investing in, I think.
I think so. I agree. I agree with you, David.
Cool.
Should we end the episode on Louis Rees-Zammit again?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it.
So,
I'll leave this one to you.
in no words yet. Basically, he has finally. Well, obviously, last episode we announced that he'd signed a 1-year deal with the Bristol Bears in the English Championship or in the Premiership. Sorry. So since then, I believe it was yesterday. He had an interview,
Yeah.
and I think this is the first time, Gito. This is what we've been waiting for, really. This is the first time that we've seen him go in depth, and he's been asked and prodded about his experience over the last 18 months. And from what from what I got, Gito, is I think it was a very humbling experience for Louis Rees-Zammit. I'm not sure how comfortable I am with what he's been quoted on saying, or if he's been misquoted because some of the quotes came out like I was wasting my talent in the NFL, and I was getting very frustrated because I wasn't getting any reps, basically, and it was always going to be an uphill battle going up against people who had gone through the college elites, and which is all true. Not that I'm saying that he's salty or anything, and then he should have been treated better. But like I said, it's a humbling experience, and even the best of the best, some of the top, talented athletes in our sporting world, find it very, very difficult to transition to the NFL. Which makes it, even more of a feat that, eventually, if someone does manage to do that in the near future, then clearly they've done something miraculous. Because if Zammit hasn't been able to do it, and others before him, it's going to take something massive. Ultimately, maybe this means that in terms of the IPP, the player pathway, maybe they're going to have to go through college first and then set their sights on the NFL, because clearly catching up or making the transition takes time. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, I agree with you. I can understand it is a difficult process going from one sport to another, but a great example I want to talk about first of all is Jordan Mailata. He's Australian, plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. He's won a Super Bowl. He's 28 years old. He is a which position does he play? I've completely lost it. Offensive tackle.
He's a tackle. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can happen, and it shows that it can be done. For Louis Rees-Zammit, obviously, I can understand where he's coming from. I think I mentioned when we did that episode when he decided to go to rugby that he's 24 and he wants to be playing week in, week out. He's said on his statement, which I've got up here, so I just felt like I was kind of wasting my talent out there, to be honest. I gave him my best shot. He was getting minimal reps, and it was just something that I was fed up with. Yeah, I agree with you in terms. I don't want to think he's being salty, but yeah, I'm still gutted for him that it didn't work out, to be honest with you, David. But
yeah,
at the end of the day, if he, I think he thought that he gave it his best shot, but I think it came down to it that he just wants to play week in and week out.
Yes.
He can still play it in rugby. He's signed up for the Bristol Bears, and I wish him well. I can't wait to see him in a rugby shirt. But I still wish that we would have seen him play in pre-season. To play just a couple of reps in pre-season, just to see how he got on, sort of thing. Obviously, going from the international player program straight to the NFL, obviously it will be a big of a jump because we've got college players getting drafted and playing ahead of him straight away. So obviously in here in the UK we've got the NFL Academy. It's based in London, but a lot of it's been reports like there's some great young talents there that's been transferred from the NFL Academy. Some of them have signed for colleges in America, so they're playing college football at the moment. So there is different pathways you can take if you want to play from a different sport to the NFL and learn more about the game. So, but at the end of it, he says there's no regrets. I'm very happy that I made the decision, and I'm glad he's found peace with it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
He ended it in his own terms. It looks like so. That's good for him.
More that I think about it, Guitar, I think his downfall, unfortunately, and there's nothing that he could do about it, ultimately was the positions that he was going up for.
Yeah.
Either if he was either going to go in as a running back or as a wide receiver, with all due respect, I'm really glad that you brought up Jordan Mailata. I think he was a former rugby league player or rugby union. I can't remember.
I've lost
over in Australia.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't mean any disrespect here. Would it be easier for a rugby player to transition to being either an offensive or a defensive lineman instead of being a skilled position like a running back or a wide receiver? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. The skill set, obviously, even for an offensive lineman, is completely different from rugby. I just think that especially if you're trying to go in as a wide receiver, you're going up against the superstars of the game, the guys that are going to be paid the most, apart from quarterbacks, flashy players. And ridiculously gifted, in terms athletically gifted, and I think ultimately that was his downfall. And because he was going to try and make it as a wide receiver, it was gonna take him years in order to catch up. I think so.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. You see all these college players coming up from they play the sport at a very, very young age, talking 5-6 years old, so they've got all the experience in the world, even before college, and then going through college. College football is massive now, which college football's grown massively over the last few years. I'm getting into it myself. It's unbelievable, and you see the talent there. And obviously, Rees-Zammit must have felt that he was far-fetched from it. And, he lost the opportunity because they, obviously Jacksonville Jaguars or whatever, they drafted wide receivers in front of him and started to play them in front of him. So, I think that was the frustration with Rees-Zammit in the end, that he just wanted to play week in and week out. And if he felt like he was losing his talents, then he must have thought it was the right thing to go back to rugby. So, there we go. But yeah, that's the end of the. And I don't see. Obviously, he won't be coming back to the NFL anytime soon. No. I think he's staying back in rugby now forever. So, Absolutely. All the best to Louise. It's been great, obviously, following him, playing in it, and even though with the little reps that he did have in pre-season last year. But it's been fun following his, all year, just following his stories and talking about where he's going to go next and what's the next for him. So, but. It's getting nice ended like this, but we've got Tyson Badgen to praise about.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And just lastly, get on what you said about the rise of college football. I couldn't agree more. I'm watching a really good documentary on Netflix about the SEC at the moment. You should watch it, by the way. It's very, very good. And it's just the amount of money that is involved with college athletics. Some college players get paid more than rookies in the NFL. And a lot of people decide to stay on for an extra year to go back to college because you're guaranteed 2, 3, 4, 5 mil a year than going on a rookie contract. Which is absolutely crazy, really, to think, with all the sponsorship deals and all of that. But makes, like you said, makes college football that much better and that much loaded with talent, because you've got people that are delaying their draft process in order to go back to the SEC, college football for one more year. So yeah, it's going to be really interested to see. Are we going to have more polished players coming out to the draft and less raw talent? I don't know if that's going to kind of, are we going to see people playing 4 years in college instead of playing 2 years and then drafting and then, going early to the draft over the next couple of years because of the rise, and especially because of the amount of money that's involved with the college game at the moment. But really good documentary on Netflix about the SEC, by the way. I think we have come to the end of our chat here, Gito, for now. So obviously, last round of pre-season games over the weekend. Just quickly, who are the Falcons playing this weekend?
I've lost it. If you give me just a couple of seconds. Here.
I'll tell you who so the Dolphins are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is going to be their first and last home game rather, of the pre-season.
Yeah.
And then obviously, however, I have been told, Gito, that apparently Travis Hunter won't be playing. I don't think the Jags or the Dolphins will be playing any of their starters, which makes sense at the moment. Yeah. What about the Falcons?
We're going to Texas. We're going to Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. That's going to be a good game. We beat them last season in regular season, so I was a big fan of that game. So Cowboys for us to see this weekend. I'm not expecting anything much. I'm expecting. I won't be surprised if Kirk Cousins play. Just get a couple of reps. He hasn't played any pre-seasons, and obviously with Micah Penix being our QB1, I won't be surprised to see him play a couple of reps. So Falcons Cowboys this weekend.
Sweet, fantastic. Well, the next time we'll be on air, or the next time you'll see an episode, we're going to be literally previewing the beginning of the 2025-2026 season. Yeah. I mean, it has really come round really, really quick. I'm really enjoying the countdown. I'm enjoying the process. And I'm sure we will have some things up our sleeves for that small window that basically is like 2 weeks, isn't it? Preparation before the first regular season game. Before we start our first official season here on the NFL Cymru pod. So if you want to contribute in any way, like I said, we are all over the socials, on X, NFL Cymru pod, and on Instagram. Watch or hear our episodes on YouTube for free. Just search NFL Cymru and it should come up. And like I said, hopefully, Gito, we'll have to get some of our guests, some of our former guests, because I know we'll definitely have to catch Christy, because I believe she's flying to Tampa for the first regular game of the season.
Possibly so. Yeah, she's going to one of the games. Yeah, so we'll try and get our hands on get Christy back on before we start the regular season. Definitely.
100%. Also, looking forward to the fantasy league that we're going to be involved with Cynan over at Ydy'r Helmed and Ffitio, the Welsh language NFL podcast as well. So that's going to be really cool as well.
That's gonna be good fun. I'm looking forward to that one, definitely.
Class. For now, guys, we are out. Hope you enjoy the episode. Hope you enjoy the last week of the preseason. Like I said, we will be back next week previewing rather the start of the regular season. We can't wait. I'm sure you can't wait. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Diolch fawr iawn. Peace. We are out.